Welcome to Capitalizing Your Life, the podcast that shows you how to take control of your money, build lasting wealth, and create financial freedom using the infinite banking concept. If you're ready to make your cash flow work for you instead of someone else, you're in the right place. Here's your host, Glenn Yaney.
Today, my guest is Brock Fortner with Stone Century Financial. Welcome, Brock.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I've secretly been watching you from far, stalking you on social media, and been trying to encourage you to create more content on your podcast, your 5-episode podcast. It's great. It's got a lot of big names on it. So what's the name of the podcast?
It's called Board of Titans.
And also you're on Cash Flow Legends, and always love to hear you there too.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So if you could, we always like to start out the podcast with what was the thing that you saw was the problem before you started IBC?
We already talked about this question beforehand, which would be different for me, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't necessarily a problem in my own world that I saw that this would solve for, because I grew up in it.
Yeah.
I would say, I just got done writing an email to somebody about the fact of I'm a second generation person to be involved with this. Like my dad, I'm sure if people listen to your podcast, they've listened to others in this community and they've heard about my dad, and he's in the community as well. And so I just kind of grew up in it. And when I started asking questions about, what do I want to do in life? What do I want to be when I grow up? And started asking these questions at about 18, I finally got, a picture into finances and what my dad does and how our family operates. And that's kind of where it started for me, was just, the infinite banking world. And, a lot of people will be like, oh, I got a policy because it solved this problem for me, or I did this. I got a policy because my dad said it was the first thing that I was going to do when I got in the business. And since then, I've gotten other policies and I've utilized the policies, and I implement this for hundreds of families across the country.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously lots of experience. So I believe through IBC, there's seasons that we go through in our life and understanding and where things that are missed at the beginning. But as we start to undo the onion, I would say, what's some of the things that you found later through practicing IBC and teaching it?
I had there's a client of mine that I work with. We're really good buddies. He does an incredible job. He puts massive amounts of money into life insurance. And we were both talking about the fact of come September, I will have been doing this for 10 years. And he's been, a client of mine for 5+. And both of us finally started realizing the impact of having these policies and just seeing how they operate 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road with one of our policies. And it's we have borrowed, both of us in a certain circumstance, have both borrowed almost all of our cash value out of the policy to go utilize in different places. But this year, when we made our premium payment, our cash value grew by a lot more than what we paid in premiums. And it's oh my gosh, as many times as I sell these policies, as long as I've been around this, for some reason, it finally just clicks more and more each and every year that I do this, to finally say, oh wait, yeah, this actually does work. This is why I'm storing my capital here. This is why I like doing business this way.
Yeah. I actually was talking to somebody before this call, and they would say, why don't you do an 8-pay or something like that? And I was like, it gets to a point where you get past that 8th year where you'll wish that you had availability to keep going for as long as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about that a lot. People will bring that up a lot. Is well, why wouldn't you just pay 10 years? Or why wouldn't you just pay 7 years and go get another policy? Number one, you're not guaranteed to be able to get another policy. But number two would be if we had a policy and it just kept getting better each and every year, and you got to year 8 and you could decide, all right, well, I'm going to turn the policy off or keep going. If my life was over, sure, I'll stop paying premiums. But the reality is by year 8, I'm still making money. I still have a place that I want to put my money. So when I look at the life insurance, there is no other asset that I can put money into at that point in time that's going to give me as great of value on a risk-free and tax-free basis anywhere in my world. So that's why I think the older you get, the longer you pay into this, it's just going to keep getting better. And there's no real reason to stop unless you literally stop working and having money to put somewhere.
What would you say is something that you, underestimated through practicing IBC?
Something that I underestimated, I would probably say the actual use and quickness of the dollars.
Yeah.
And how once you have had the money in the policy and you've taken your first loan, if you needed to do it again, how fast this actually picks up and how easy it is to pay back loans and do it again and pay back loans and do it again. I think that would be my answer.
The one that comes to mind for me is it's like when I first started, it was enough premium to make you sweat. That was the example that people I've heard in the past. And it was something that I'm actually glad that I did it. I thought to myself, it actually, for me, my income went down after I started my policy. So it was even made me sweat even more. Like the thing everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Oh, what happens this? It's like, well, you're building your banking system. So
yeah,
thankfully, I would say the crazy part about that is that every year the premium feels smaller and smaller.
Sure does.
It's like, that's like the one thing that it's like when you get that first mortgage and you start paying whatever it is, $1,500 a month. And then for me, my first mortgage was $560. And I was like trying to run the numbers and make sure that I was going to be able to pay it. It's.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly how that is. And I think I know exactly who you're talking about when it comes to sweating. And my second policy I also was sweating. But if you use the policies the right way, you continue to invest in yourself, your income should grow by the value you create in this world. And that premium just keeps getting easier and easier and easier while you still have access to it.
Yeah, the more I understand about it and the more I have these life experiences with investing and really for me, my real estate portfolio, it turns into where your liquidity is king. And most people, the people that are saying otherwise, haven't ran into an illiquid moment in their life.
I have found that I think it's always funny talking to people who they're like, oh, cash is trash and you shouldn't. I think that's complete hogwash.
Yes.
I have the privilege of being in rooms where, there's one room that I'm a part of where the average net worth is $100 million. And we have people come and talk to us all the time, family offices, people who literally manage real estate for like Bezos and the Ford family and all these people. And everybody enjoys liquidity. Everybody knows the importance of having liquidity because that's what creates your ability to capitalize on other aspects. And the only people who really dislike liquidity or think cash is trash are typically people who are broke or are trying to get rich really quickly.
Yeah. You're like running like red line finances.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And some people will come to me if they're like new into wealth and they're like, oh, I feel like I have too much cash on hand. And I'm like, does it make you feel comfortable? Can you sleep well at night because of it? Yes. Okay. Well, then guess what? It's not too much cash on hand. The only person who can tell you whether you are well off in cash is you and your peace of mind because of that cash.
Also, it just turns into where so for me, it's like we talked about a little bit beforehand. It's like we had this refinance that failed twice. And I'm not anti-leverage is what I would say. But the banks, when they look at your balance sheet and they don't see any cash in hand and you're like, say, in this situation, I was a smaller partner. I was maybe 5% of the deal. It's like the banks are going to have a harder time saying yes to you. And what ends up happening, you have to pay more interest,
Let me make sure I understand this correctly. So you just told me that you guys tried to go refinance a property because you had cash in it and the bank told you no to your own money?
Exactly. There was multiple problems. There was insurance problems on the property. I learned about, they have requirements. And what they wanted is to refinance the property and they would hold back $500,000 in escrow for the time of the loan. I was like, why would I ever do that?
That's interesting. All these people who talk about, oh, you should, pay off your house as fast as possible. Or, oh, all my liquidity, I keep a bunch of my liquidity in my real estate properties. That's great until you go ask for it and somebody else is in control of the yes or no.
Yeah. And I can look in hindsight. I've looked back into my real estate portfolio and I have sold good assets to get liquidity. I've sold properties I would love to own still today.
Yeah.
But I knew that they had, the first one I thought of is the house that I sold. I paid down the mortgage by $100,000 and I knew that I could get $100,000 out of it if I just wouldn't have paid it down.
Yeah.
And it turned into where I sold the house and I felt like freedom, where I was like, oh, I got $100,000 in my hand, but it was my money that I put into it.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then there was another one that it was a mobile home park that had, I think it was close to $1 million of equity. It was at a point, it had really good financing, but a lot of equity. So what are we going to do? Are we going to take the money out and get, higher interest, or are we, so it turned into where we're like, well, I guess we're just going to sell the property to where we can get this $1 million out of it,
Yeah.
And I can tell you IBC is, if you store your capital as much as you possibly can, it turns into where it's more of a calculation compared to almost like an emotional decision,
Yep. Oh yeah. Everything's based on cash flow and how it operates. And Once you understand that all wealth is created through free cash flow, well, then you kind of get an understanding and you can really grasp about the fact of like what your free cash flow is or your net cash flow, investable cash flow, whatever you think is there. You can only do one of two things with it. You can either create outflows where the money leaves and never comes back, or you could do capital flows where it sends it to assets that produce more income. But if you don't have the free cash flow, if you don't have any, free cash at the end of the day, you can't do anything.
Hey guys, if you'd like to learn more about the infinite banking concept and how to flow your capital through your own financing system, my team and I are here to help. With over 35 years of experience, we can guide you in building a properly structured whole life policy tailored to you and your family. See the scheduling link below. Now, back to the show. Yeah. And then also just to add to that a little bit, it's like kind of what you're talking about with the family offices. It's cash is equity.
Yep.
It's like that's your equity. It's just liquid, and how you store it is really, that's what we're talking about. But it's like the one that has the gold makes the rules is what it turns into.
That's right.
If you're talking to a family office,
Right.
I promise you they're making the rules. You are not making the rules when you talk to unless you're a gigantic institution.
Yeah.
And they know that it's a totally different situation. But I've had not real conversations, but with people that have dealt with family offices, and they're like, they make the rules for sure.
They do. Yep, they sure do. They know how to run it.
Cool. So like today, like what are you seeing is the best, what are you seeing with high net worth people? What are they most focused on?
I think it's different per family. Like there's the high net worth families that are, hardcore working, they're owning their businesses, they're growing it. And then there's those who have exited and they're really just focused on the investments and the what my dad calls the quality of time remaining and how to really expand that. But also the conversation around legacy. And I think like more now than ever, and you can see a bunch of articles about this, is like how families are using family constitutions, or the whole conversation that we have around what would the Rockefellers do and why, over the next, I forget how many years coming up here, but there's going to be like a $78 trillion transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. However, there's this stat that's right behind it that shows that all wealth is destroyed by the second generation, no matter how big it is passed on. Like you think about the Vanderbilts, they have more money than the U.S. Federal Reserve at the time, and you can't find anybody wealthy enough in the Vanderbilt family to be on a wealthy list. Like it's just not there. Well, how does a family that big destroy all their money in 3 generations? Right. And I think when you look at these families, they're really getting into the importance of how do you pass on wealth as a heritage, not just an inheritance, and how can it be a hand up rather than a handout? And actually setting up the rules and the guidelines to how to steward that wealth along the way for the next generation so that they don't start off at square one every single time. It's just a continuation of the family business moving forward. And I think that's what most family offices, most high net worth families are focused on right now.
That's so hard. It's so hard. I was listening to this thing where it was saying like it takes a different kind of skill, because first it goes to like where we're trying to bootstrap it, we're trying to earn income. And then say if we have like taught our kids well and they get into a different skill, which is considered preservation, which isn't exactly the same as, taking gigantic risks that I know I've taken, but they turn into preservation. But then the next generation turns into, it's like, how do you continue that is really the question. It's like, even in the Rockefeller method, I would imagine it's like, it turns into where it's like, how do you keep people hungry to keep going,
Yeah. And a lot of that comes down to like the family constitution, the family meetings, the continuous connection of the family to say, hey, here's what we've done to create the wealth. Here's how you continue the wealth based on the rules and the lessons that we've learned along the way, right? Because if you invest in something and it goes bad, but you don't remember the lesson that you learned or write down the lesson that you learned, how are you going to give it to the next generation so that they don't mess that up too? And so that's where it really comes down to the importance of when I invest in a deal, analyzing the deal, understanding how it works, understanding how it went, and then if there were any lessons that I learned about how to be a better investor or where I lost so that I don't have to do it again, writing it down or taking a video so that next generation continues on. And I think it's the importance of like, we have the benefit of technology today. So like for you, Glenn, do you know, or have you ever seen what your great-great-grandfather looks like? Have you ever heard his voice?
I have no idea.
No idea, right? I actually do on one side of my family because he was like the first person to sing country music on the radio. But like all I know is him singing, right? I've got pictures of him. I can see him, but I don't know anything about his life. And so we have the opportunity to actually take videos of ourselves and create digital letters to the future so that if we get 2, 3 generations down the road, somebody comes across a business opportunity or a fork in the road of what to do, and we've categorized that because we've gone through it as well. Now they actually have a voice of reason in their life that they could go to and say, hey, here's where they were at. Here's what they went through. Here's how they chose it. Here's where we're at today.
You could just create a AI agent for your board member of yourself to to control the board going forward.
You could, but again, it's like the AI needs a voice behind it. So
Yeah, I know.
you establish all those videos and transcripts, that could be so good.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. So where can people find you, Brock?
People can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm like most active. Post on there once a weekday. So that would just be Brock Fortner on LinkedIn. And then my website at stonecenturyfinancial.com.
One quick question. This is totally a little bit off topic, but I'd get you on the podcast to ask you. But I've read this thing on LinkedIn and it said, I don't know if you did this, but it said that you were going with a new policy and you're doing 100% base. What would be the reasoning for doing 100% base?
It's a great question. There's a lot of reasons for that. You could be a high net worth family and your estate planner has talked about this thing called interpolated terminal reserve amount for, asset swapping when it comes to trust planning. It could be that you understand the long-term impact of a policy because, even in the book of, Becoming Your Own Banker, it talks about the importance of base premium is what creates the efficiency of the policy. This is a little nerdy, but if you are a preferred plus health underwriting, right, or a ultra preferred, whatever the company gives you, if you look at the different premiums, base premiums are paid on your preferred plus health rating, but all paid up additions are paid on standard health rating. So if I'm preferred plus health rating, over time, paying more base premiums for that over and over will be far greater than a standard health rating. So that may be another reason why I go with an all base policy. Another reason might just be I understand the importance and the power of the death benefit in my life.
Yeah.
And why, if you are, and I say this all the time, so it's not like earth shattering or anything. I'm clear with people like if all you have is a whole life insurance policy and you did nothing else financially outside of your life, you've probably failed because you're not like 4% is not going to beat 10, 12, 14%. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Where the policy comes alive is when you have other assets around it to then turbocharge, right? That way, if you have a retirement plan, well, now you can spin down the retirement plan because the death benefit is there to replace it to the next person who lives longer than you do, especially if you're a family. And I think that, a lot of people might call that the asset protection of life insurance or covered asset strategy. But your whole goal should be that when you get to the distribution years of your life or retirement years of your life, whatever you want to call them, that you have as close to a 1-to-1 ratio of life insurance permanent death benefit to the assets that you own. And people come to me a lot and say, oh, well, Brock, I'm just going to work for forever. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, except for you have no say over that.
Yeah.
You may get to 60, 80, 70, whatever the age is, and then figure out or learn that you have dementia or Alzheimer's. And what are you going to do then? People are going to trust you to continue to work and make income? You can't remember anything. So you don't get to choose retirement. Retirement chose you because of how life has, dealt cards to you. And so that is the importance of why you would want as much death benefit as possible when you get to retirement or distribution, whatever you call it. And just, at the end of the day, with life insurance, the death benefit is the most important piece. And so, especially when it's permanent and dividend paying. So that might be one of the best reasons to own an all base policy.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a friend where we debate regularly about that. And I thought to myself how I could see it to be important or why there would be a value of just doing all base. Because we talked about you specifically talking about it. And I was like, well, Brock knows something we don't. So.
And I'm still learning it more and more over time. But for example, the way that I look at it is I have a policy in my life where my base premium is really large, but I reserve the right to have a paid up addition on it. So I have no term rider. It's just all base, but I threw on a paid up addition rider because I know I don't have to make the paid up addition right? Or if I don't want to. But I have 11 months within a year to make it. So if, for example, I close a big deal or I get something that I wasn't aware of and I have cash sitting around and I don't know where to make the investment yet, well, that's very easy for me to say, oh, well, I'll just put it in my policies paid up edition. If I don't have it, so what? We'll go to the next year and do it again.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Capitalizing Your Life podcast. Please rate, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with someone who you think would enjoy listening.